to Sports Night. I'm Joe Young.
And I'm Howie Shapiro. And Joe, we were just talking about before the show. 7 weeks ago today was the last time we were on air. And obviously the state of the world right now is very different, even from 7 weeks ago. But it's so exciting for the fact that the kids get to start playing sports again.
Well, I'll be honest, I was not entirely certain that a winter season would occur, but apparently the numbers are getting better throughout the state of Minnesota, and we hope that they will continue to do so, and we will be able to play a shortened season for the winter, as obviously we're into January. Everybody just about getting started this week, though, and I know everybody is just excited that they're back on the ice, back on the court, back on the mat, and ready to compete.
Yeah, it's so interesting because obviously we all have to be safe and we all have to do the things, take the precautions to be safe. And we all hope that this continues on and there aren't going to be any stopping of the season. So it's just everybody out there, just make sure you wash your hands, you stay safe, you wear your mask, and we'll continue on.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to just take a quick look at the sports as they get rolling. Girls hockey team typically is halfway through their season at this point. They will open against Andover on Friday. Then they are back home next week for their first home game. And I believe, Howie, we will be there for their home game. Our first event will be girls basketball. Boys hockey team, you want to talk about a crazy schedule. Boys hockey team has 6 out of their first 7 games on the road before facing 5 in a row at home. That includes probably the 4 toughest teams that they will face all year, all right in a row through from the end of this month through most of February. So that will be an interesting way that their schedule plays out. But they end up with a lot of home games at the end of the season, which works out well. I talked to Coach Frock over the weekend, and he likes the way the schedule is laid out. They open at Armstrong on Thursday. They will be at Osseo on Saturday. Wrestling team, already an incident. They have to push the pause button a little bit longer, so they have pushed out some things. They will start at the end of this month. The gymnastics team starts against Centennial on the 25th, and then I believe Anoka on the 28th. It's either Anoka or Andover. You can see it on the bottom of your screen. Unfortunately, I didn't bring my notes, but that's okay. We'll get through this. The cross-country teams will start this week at Elm Creek. Their first couple of events are at Elm Creek. The Alpine teams start next week. They will be first at Wild Mountain and then at Trollhagen. Of course, the outdoor sports, it's a little bit easier to do, but there are going to be restrictions for them as well as far as number of teams competing, because obviously those are sports where you usually have 6, 8, or 10 teams at the same event, and they obviously can't do that because of the restrictions. Boys basketball team starts on the road against Park Center and then comes home for game 2. The girls basketball team will start at home against Park Center on Thursday. And Howie,
we'll be there!
And we are super excited to bring you as much as we can. Of course, our schedule at CTN, our game schedule, we're going to try and add some additional things in to get more presence, to get more content out there, because we know that with restrictions on fans, we'll do our best to get as much out there so that more people can still get a chance to watch those sports. And then we're off and running come Thursday.
We really are. And I think the interesting thing is that, whether you're on the ice or on the court, it's the same as before. The biggest difference is going to be how the athletes are going to get used to being playing with a mask on.
I was just going to say, it's the same except for a mask.
Except for the mask. And that's a huge difference. And I think it's something that obviously they're doing that so in practice, but it's something that I think they're just going to have to be able to get used to. And whether you have to bring a change of masks and continuously change your mask, it's just going to be, or you rotate more people in, because it's not going to be easy to breathe, I'm sure, with a mask on, and especially when you're running up and down the court, it's taxing. So that'll be the biggest difference, obviously. Otherwise, it's all the same.
Yeah, I skipped over the swimming and diving team. They also get started this week at home, and I believe they have their first couple of events at home, so that's awesome. And we have them on the schedule a little bit later this month. But a lot of changes, and as you mentioned, the masks, that's going to be really interesting, especially in those very aerobic sports like hockey and basketball, to see how that affects endurance and things of that nature. A lot of differences on the outside of the sport, just making sure that we can continue to compete. And for more on that, we bring in Activities Director Curtis Wallrath. Kurt, thanks for being with us.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
First question would be, what has the last 4 to 6 weeks been like for you?
Oh, where to begin? I mean, it's been crazy, but it's been crazy good. You know, I mean, I think the hardest thing about this whole pandemic experience is, you know, not knowing when it's going to end, not knowing when we're going to be back, not knowing when things are going to be better. And I think for our coaches and our kids, and for me, actually being able to work up to something and knowing that this is going to happen and prepare for it has been really fun. Nerve-wracking and stressful as new information comes in, but really fun and exciting.
You know, obviously you're involved in this. Talk a little bit about how the athletes, I mean, you hear this, how the athletes are taking to this change and how it's working out for the kids.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, and you guys mentioned it, they're just really happy to be there. You know, I think for a lot of it, it's like hearkening back to beginning in their sport. You know, because it's so fresh and new again, and you're thankful for every practice and every day and every shift and every quarter. But there is an adjustment period. You know, I admittedly, I think a lot of our kids would tell you that they've come in maybe not the best shape that they've ever been in their lives. You know, I mean, time has taken a little bit of a toll, and they haven't been able to do the things that they usually do to get ready for a season. The mask piece, you guys mentioned it. It's a huge test in self-discipline for our kids. It is not easy. Those things get pretty gross after a couple of shifts or a couple of periods. But at the same time, the kids are getting used to it. I think with every day and talking to kids and coaches, it gets easier and it becomes part of the norm and part of the routine. And they're doing a really great job with it. And you know, it's not easy, but the coaches have been wonderful.
Well, and as I mentioned, there's a lot going on behind the scenes different. For instance, you have to do the busing a little bit differently. How has that been received so far, and what kind of things are going on that side of it to make sure that they're staying safe and you're still getting kids to and from games?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, you know how much work our coaches put in as it is, the hours and hours and hours of time in a normal season. Now you couple that with seating charts on the bus, you know, things like that, just things that coaches have never thought of as being part of their job description that now are. So I think while it's well received and everyone knows we need to do it and how important it is to keep everyone safe, it's just made a difficult, time-consuming job that much more time-consuming. But as always for our coaches, it's a labor of love. They would do anything for those kids. They would read any amount of new regulations and put them into place because they have to get the kids out there and get them safe. So it's going well. It's a big adjustment for them.
Now, obviously, you know, there was a lot of uncertainty when we got the word that, yes, sports would continue. The next piece was, how are they going to handle spectators? Because for a lot of the kids, they want their fans, their friends, their parents, their grandparents to be there. A lot of parents obviously don't want to miss their kids in action. How is the restrictions on seating or viewership, and is that different from what we saw in the fall?
Yeah, it'll be a little bit different. A lot of what you'll see will be the same. Basketball, for example, will look a lot like volleyball with 2 spectators per kid. I just want to start by saying we're really thankful to have people there. There was a ton of consideration to how that was going to look and how it might work. And you always think about the worst case scenarios too, where let's say you have a student athlete who gets injured, and having a parent or having someone there with that student athlete is really important. So there was a lot of consideration given. I think the really tough part is not every facility is the same. If you've been in one hockey rink, you've been in one hockey rink. right? So every facility has some little different nuances for how things are going to work, and it's going to be really important for coaches, ADs to make sure that we're communicating with each other so that going into an event, we know the specifics of that place and that particular event so we can prepare for it, and obviously parents and fans and coaches can prepare for it and be ready to go. So it'll look a little bit different from fall because every sport's a little bit different, every facility is a little bit different. Obviously we have more going on inside and that creates more issues too. But first and foremost, we're really thankful to have people there. It's gonna make it more like the traditional experience that our kids deserve and have come to be used to.
The interesting thing for me is how have the numbers been for sports? Are they up or are they down considering all that's going on in the world?
Yeah, I would say on the whole, and I think if you look across the whole metro and probably everywhere, they are down. And I think that's really understandable. You know, every family, every student athlete has to make that decision, you know, weigh the positives and the negatives and the risks and go about making the call. So we figured that they would be down, and we understand. Not every sport is down, though. There have been some bright spots there, some real surprises. We know that kids are itching to get out of their houses. We know that parents are itching to have their kids get out of their houses. So I think that contributed to some of it. But what we're hopeful is that when this is all said and done and it's all over, that some of the kids and families who made that decision to not do it this year, which we completely understand, will come back. That's really important for us. And it's hard too at school. I mean, our biggest recruiting tool for getting kids out is to be able to talk to them in school and say, hey, you would be perfect for this. Why don't you try this? We don't really have the opportunity to do that, so that hurts as well. But pleasantly surprised with the numbers in some areas, a little more concern in others, but we feel like they'll come back.
Yeah, and we've spoken ad nauseum on this program and in our game coverage, the importance of the athletics, not just for the sake of athletics, but for the sake of socialization and learning lessons that you get through either through competition and learning that what that hard work can get for you, or through teamwork. I have always been a huge proponent of team sports because of the lessons it teaches you that are useful for you the rest of your life. So it's good to see that these kids are going to be able to play. Obviously, we were heartbroken for last year's spring season to be completely lost in the seniors. For the class of 2021, I have been incredibly impressed by the resiliency and the way that those kids have approached a very difficult situation, and they're going to do whatever they have to do to continue to play and participate in the sports they love. And I think it's just great.
No doubt about it. That class, these last two senior classes will probably go down as the most resilient classes of all time at Coon Rapids High School. But like I said, they're just really appreciative, I think, of the little things. And every little thing that comes back that's normal, they look at it as, this is more than I could have ever expected, and they're just really thankful.
Now, obviously, there are still challenges ahead as you get through the season, and we're very hopeful that the season will continue as planned. But as of right now, I believe, is it all sports are still planning some sort of postseason, perhaps all the way through a state tournament, correct?
That is correct, yeah. I mean, that was a major point of emphasis of the State High School League is let's see if we can get these kids, the culminating activities that they're used to and deserve. So that is a huge priority for them and for us. And let's hope we get there. We think that we will. It might look a little bit different from the state tournaments that we've come to be accustomed to watching, but to have that for the kids at the end of all this would be wonderful, and that's definitely the hope.
As activities director, when you took this job over, obviously you can't anticipate what's going to happen. How has it changed for you in particular the most coming into this, when it all started, and especially coming into this winter season?
Boy, I think the biggest thing is just the amount of information. The high school league has been wonderful about getting us information, but it's constantly changing. You might get something on a Thursday, report that back to your coaches. the coaches report it to the kids, and then on Friday morning, you have that same document, at least it looks the same, except there's 9 or 10 highlighted lines that are completely different. Then you've got to circle back, get that information out, and then wait for the next thing. So I think that's been the biggest thing, is the sheer amount of information, documents to read, make sure you're familiar, and then to be able to translate to the people who need that.
Now, the fall season, we got through almost all of it. Football had to end their section tournament early. Volleyball season, unfortunately, cut short just before their tournament. What kind of things did you learn, and you and all of the other activities directors, what kind of things did you learn during that fall season that might help this winter season go a little smoother?
Well, I think the one thing we learned was sort of the importance of the little things and not letting our guard down. You know, I think the longer you sort of go and you play and things sort of feel more normal, the more you return to normal yourself and you sort of let your guard down. And not that we did that. I mean, I think our coaches were great about being vigilant every day, but I think the importance of the little things. You know, as coaches, we're so accustomed to, okay, when practice is going on, we've got our eyes on our kids, they've got our full attention, our full focus. But now we're also looking at what happens before practice. Where are kids gathering? When they're going home from practice, that kind of thing too. Let's make sure they're making the right decisions there. So I think the total picture of fall and what we learned was the little things really, really matter. And if you let your guard down for a second, you know, you might lose it. And we're ready to move forward with that knowledge from fall.
Well, I think what you've done has been great. I was really, really impressed by the way that the high school league approached it throughout that suspension, that pause period from late November through the end of December and then into January. The whole time they were planning to make it as normal as possible, which I think is so huge for these kids. We here are going to do our best to make it as normal as possible from this side of it. We are going to continue to try and get kids the chance to do some interviews and have their sports night moments. We're going to be doing the spotlights instead of a preview as we normally would. But really appreciate you for doing the job that you're doing, keeping the lines of communication going, not only with the staff of each of your teams, but also with us, so that we can do what we continue to do and try and make sure that we can cover as much as possible.
Oh, I appreciate that. And we appreciate what you guys do for us. You being a part of our game day experience is so huge for our kids and our families and our coaches. And it's that normal that everybody wants, and seeing you guys there on game night is a huge part of it. So thank you for that.
Well, we do really appreciate you coming in to talk with us and giving us an update. And we are super excited to be back on the desk and ready to go back out into the arenas and bring you some sports. There's a look at what we have planned coming up. Girls basketball on Thursday live at 7 o'clock against Park Center. Girls hockey live on Tuesday night against Elk River. And the boys basketball team against Rogers on Wednesday. We'll see the boys hockey team for the first time that Saturday when they have their first home game against Rogers. So a lot of stuff on our schedule. We hope you will continue to join us and enjoy the action that we are able to bring. But that is going to do it for this edition of Sportsnight. I want to thank everybody out there for joining us, continuing to support everything we do here at CTN. I want to thank Curtis Wallrath for coming in and talking with us this evening. For the entire crew, including Howie Shapiro, I'm Joe Young saying good night.